All right, ready for a deep dive into something a little different.
I'm game.
Today, it's Sato Lymphatic Care.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's this wellness practice that's, well, getting a lot of buzz online. And folks have been asking us to break it down.
Makes sense. It's definitely out there.
Yeah, and our main source is a YouTube video, straight from the founder, Dr. Sato.
Right, to the source.
Exactly. And I'll admit, some of his ideas are a bit unconventional. But hey, that's what makes this deep dive so fun.
Yeah, for sure. Always up for exploring new ideas.
So we're going to try to really break down what he's claiming, the theory behind it all, but even touch on some of the results people are sharing, which are pretty, shall we say, intriguing.
Sounds like a plan.
And right off the bat, one of the big things that stood out to me is how Dr. Sato thinks about the lymphatic system.
Oh, yeah? In what way?
It's not just about the lymphatic system itself. He ties it into this whole bigger concept of space within the body.
Space, huh? That's interesting.
Yeah, and when I first heard space, I have to be honest, I was picturing like literal empty space inside us.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it's more nuanced than that, right?
Right, it's not just about emptiness. It's like about the optimal arrangement of everything inside.
Okay.
So tissues, organs, all of that, having enough room to move and function the way they should.
So it's like the difference between a brand new suitcase, perfectly organized, and one you've just shoved everything into.
Exactly. One where everything's kind of jammed in and can't breathe.
And he's saying that can happen in our bodies.
That's his idea, yeah, that these spaces can collapse or get restricted.
Okay, so we're not just talking lymphatic system anymore. This is about the structure of the whole body.
Exactly, yeah. He's saying that keeping these cavities open, you know, the chest cavity, oral cavity, even the spaces between organs, that it's crucial for the whole system to work, right?
I'm starting to get the picture. So how does he explain that? Like, why these spaces matter so much?
Well, he uses this analogy. It's kind of out there. He says humans are like super air animals.
Super air animals. Okay, never heard that one before.
Yeah, built around these open spaces. Like, they're as much a part of our structure as our skeleton.
Interesting. I mean, we do depend on air for everything, right?
For sure. Breathing, circulation, everything.
Okay, so what does he say goes wrong with these spaces then?
Basically, he points the finger at modern life.
Ah, the usual suspect.
Right. Stress, bad posture, even how we breathe, it can all lead to these spaces collapsing, he says.
So, like, if someone has chronic shoulder pain, could it be that there's some restricted space in their chest cavity making it worse?
He says it could be, yeah. Lots of common health issues, he says, stem from this idea.
Okay. And that's where this Sato Lymphatic Care comes in, to try and reopen those spaces?
Exactly. It's about restoring that optimal, organization inside.
But what does that even look like in practice?
You know, it's not what you might think. It's surprisingly subtle. No deep tissue massage or anything like that. It's more about light touch, very specific movements, and he compares it to like opening a drain.
A drain. Okay, I'm picturing a clogged sink or something.
Exactly. You remove the blockage, and then the body, the natural flow, can just take over.
So it's not about forcing the lymph fluid to move. It's about creating the space for it to move naturally.
Yeah, exactly. He demonstrates a bunch of these techniques in the video. One that's pretty interesting, he does this gentle rotation of the earlobes.
The earlobes. What does that do?
He claims it can actually impact the sphenoid bone, which is at the base of the skull.
The sphenoid bone, that sounds pretty specific.
Yeah, it's a junction point for a lot of fluid flow in the head and neck, he says.
Is there like research on that, or is it just based on his experience?
Good question. The video mostly focuses on like anecdotal evidence and his own observations.
Okay, fair enough. So let's talk about those results then. He's making some pretty big claims, right? Improved circulation, less pain, even natural facelifts.
Yeah, he doesn't hold back.
Some of it sounds almost too neat to be true.
Right. Mental clarity, stronger immune function, even slimming effects.
But hold on, before we get carried away, I want to hear more about that story with the 10 million yen lymphatic drainage machine.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
It's like David versus Goliath, right? This simple manual technique up against a high-tech, super expensive machine. What happened?
Well, the way he tells it, they compared the results on volunteers, and his manual techniques actually outperformed the machine.
Wow, seriously. That's pretty impressive. I mean, it makes you wonder if there's something to this whole space idea. But is there any, actual scientific backing for any of this?
That's what we'll get into in part 2. We'll look at what, conventional medicine says about lymphatic drainage and if there are any overlaps or maybe contradictions with Dr. Sato's approach.
Sounds good. I'm definitely starting to think about how everything in our bodies is connected in ways we don't always realize.
Yeah, it's a good reminder.
All right, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back to dig into the science in part 2.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, so we've heard what Dr. Sato's saying, but what about, like, the science? Does conventional medicine back up any of this space theory or his approach to lymphatic drainage?
Well, if we start with the lymphatic system itself, we know it's super important for our immune system.
Right, absolutely crucial.
And manual lymphatic drainage, or MLD, that's actually a recognized technique.
Oh, really? So the idea of manually influencing the lymphatic system, that's not totally out there.
No, not at all. Physical therapists, other healthcare pros, they use it especially after surgery or injuries to help with swelling.
Okay, that makes sense. But I'm guessing there's a difference between traditional MLD and what Dr. Sato is doing.
Yeah, there's a key distinction.
What is it?
Traditional MLD, it's really focused. Like, it's specifically about the lymphatic system, following the pathways of the lymph nodes and vessels.
Okay, so very targeted.
Yeah, whereas Dr. Sato, he's taking this much broader approach, addressing the whole body and how it's all connected.
Right, it always comes back to that space for him. But is there, like, any scientific evidence for that connection?
That's where it gets a little tricky. There's a ton of research on the lymphatic system itself, but his space theory hasn't been directly studied in, a rigorous scientific way.
So we're in kind of uncharted territory.
In a way, yeah, but that doesn't mean his ideas are totally baseless. Think about fascia, for example.
Fascia, that's the connective tissue, right? The stuff that runs throughout our body.
Exactly. It's like this web that surrounds everything. Muscles, organs, even blood vessels and nerves. And research on fascia that's really taking off now.
Oh, I've heard a bit about that. So are scientists finding out it's more important than we thought?
Yeah, it seems to play a much bigger role in our health than we realized.
And could that tie into Dr. Sato's space idea somehow?
Possibly, yeah. Fascia, it can get tight, restricted, and that could limit the space available for things to move freely.
So maybe he's onto something, even if he's not using the same terminology as, Western medicine.
It's an interesting thought for sure. Now, another thing Dr. Sato really emphasizes is muscle tension.
Yeah, he talks a lot about muscles, like how tense muscles can basically squeeze those spaces shut.
Right, almost like a vice grip. And that actually aligns with what we know about muscle tension and how it affects circulation and lymphatic flow.
So even if we don't fully understand the space thing, the idea that being tense can impact our health, that's pretty well established.
Definitely. Chronically tight muscles, they can compress those blood vessels and lymphatic vessels, which can restrict the flow of fluids.
Gotcha. So it makes sense that loosening up those muscles could help things move more freely. Okay, but what about those more out there claims, like the natural facelifts and slimming effects? Is there anything to that scientifically?
I think it's important to remember he's not talking about spot reduction or quick fixes. He's saying that as those body cavities open up, circulation improves, everything kind of naturally becomes more toned and lifted.
So it's a side effect of being healthier overall, not some magic trick.
Right, exactly. And while there's not research specifically on cytolymphatic care and facelifts, we do know that good circulation can make your skin healthier, give you a more youthful appearance.
So not totally implausible.
Yeah, I'd say it's more about creating the right conditions for your body to function at its best, not, chasing after a specific look.
Fair enough. Now, the techniques themselves, I gotta say, they seem so gentle, almost too good to be true. Do we know how they might work? On like a physiological level?
Well, he focuses on light touch, gentle strokes, holding certain points.
Right, very subtle stuff.
Yeah, and those kinds of techniques, they could stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the one that controls rest and relaxation.
Ah, okay, so it's not just about physically moving fluid, it's also about calming the nervous system down.
Exactly, and when your nervous system is relaxed, it can have all these ripple effects, reduces muscle tension, improves blood flow, and potentially even helps lymphatic drainage.
Wow, it really is all connected, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, that's what makes this whole deep dive so fascinating. We're still learning so much about the subtle ways our bodies work and how they can heal.
Okay, before we get too lost in the science, I want to bring it back to our listeners for a minute. What are your takeaways so far? Are you seeing the connections between what Dr. Sato's saying and what we know about the body?
Yeah, I'd encourage everyone listening to, think about tension in your own body. Where do you feel tight, restricted? Could that be affecting your health?
And even if you're not sold on the whole super air animal idea, maybe this has got you curious about different ways to approach wellness, right?
Exactly. There's always something new to learn and explore.
All right, we're going to wrap up this exploration of Sato Lymphatic Care in part 3. We'll have some final thoughts and some questions to leave you pondering. Okay, so we've talked about Dr. Sato's ideas, looked at some of the science, but now I'm curious, what really sticks out to you about all of this?
For me, it's that reminder that our bodies are just incredibly complex. And they can regulate themselves in ways we don't even fully grasp. And Dr. Sato's approach, whether or not you buy into all of it, it really drives that point home.
Definitely. It's like this whole interconnectedness.
Exactly. Like, it's not just about treating the symptom, it's about understanding the root cause, and supporting your body's natural ability to heal.
It really makes you think differently about health. Instead of just like popping a pill when something feels off, maybe we should be thinking, what's going on with the space inside my body?
Right. Could that be contributing to how I'm feeling?
Yeah, exactly.
And it ties into this idea of self-care, too. He's not giving you a quick fix. He's encouraging you to pay attention to your body.
Be more aware.
Yeah, and figure out what works for you.
You know what? I've actually been trying that earlobe rotation thing he showed.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know about the whole sphenoid bone connection, but I will say it's kind of weirdly relaxing.
Interesting.
Like, I hold a lot of tension in my jaw, and it does feel like it helps release that a little.
I mean, even if it's a placebo effect, that relaxation can be so beneficial.
Yeah, totally. So maybe even if we don't take all of Dr. Sato's claims literally, there's still some good takeaways here.
For sure. Like being mindful of our posture, noticing where we hold tension.
And maybe exploring these gentler ways to like encourage lymphatic flow.
Exactly. And for me, that's the biggest thing I'm taking away from this. Whether you believe in the super air animal thing or not, his work makes us think differently.
About our bodies, our health, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a paradigm shift.
Instead of thinking of our bodies as machines that need fixing, we start to see them as these like intelligent systems with this innate ability to heal.
Exactly. It's about supporting that process, not trying to control it.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will walk away with?
I'd say just be curious about your own body. Explore different approaches, even if they seem a little out there. Pay attention to what feels good, what gives you that sense of ease and energy. Remember, you are your own best healer.
I love that. And hey, don't forget that story about Dr. Sato going up against that 10 million yen machine.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
It's a good reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions can be the most effective.
For sure.
So as you go about your day, maybe try some of those gentle techniques. Notice your breath, where you feel tension, and then see what happens.
You might surprise yourself.
Absolutely. All right, deep divers, that's a wrap on our Sato Lymphatic Care journey, but hopefully it's just the start of your own exploration. Stay curious, stay open, and keep diving deep.